August 10, 2023 Compucram Examsim, Pad. Q. The term dedication refers to, correct answer, the transfer of real property by a private owner to a public agency. Rationale: an easement appurtenant is the right acquired by one owner of a parcel of land to use the adjacent land of another. Disintermediation is the movement of money out of a savings account into a higher yield investment such as corporate and government instruments. Discount points are a fee charged by a lender to make up the difference between the current market interest rate and the rate a lender gives a borrower on a note. VAM. Q. A rental property has a return rate of 8%. The monthly net rental is $600. What is the market value of the property? Correct answer, $90,000. Rationale: rate of return is computed by dividing the annual net income by the rate of return. In this case, multiply $600 times 12 because the income is given as monthly. The gross annual income $7,200 divided by 8% is $90,000. Q. Reproduction cost likely would be used for which of these subject properties? Correct answer, a home built in 1759, where George Washington often stayed. Rationale: reproduction cost is used on unique, historical buildings. Q. A property's area is 100 feet long by 100 feet wide. The property has a deed restriction that requires 10-foot setbacks on each side, a 25-foot setback on the front of the property and a 30-foot rear setback. How much of the property is available for building use? Correct answer, 3,600 square feet. Rationale: this question involves a building site of 100 square foot x 100 square feet, which would be 10,000 total square feet. However, due to the setback lines, side yards etc., there is only a square of 45 by 80 in which to build. 100 feet 10 setbacks, x, 100 feet 25 rear and front setbacks, or 80 by 45 equals 3,600 square feet, which can actually be used for building. Fin. Q. The obligation or promise to be personally liable for conditions in another person's contract is known as, correct answer, assumption. Rationale: the giving of one person's rights under contract to another is assignment. The promise to be liable for another person's obligations under contract is assumption, that is loan assumption. The seller assigns the loan while the buyer assumes the loan. Top. Q. Who prepares the tax bill? Correct answer, the tax collector. Rationale: the tax bill, which assesses land and improvements separately but taxes them at one rate, is prepared by the tax collector. Q. The owner of a parcel of real property wishes to convey his interest to a certain buyer. The transfer of the grantor's ownership interest, if any, would be accomplished by which of the following? Correct answer, deed. Rationale: do not confuse title and deed. Title means ownership and a deed is not proof of ownership of the property. A deed is just a written instrument transferring the grantor's interest, if any, to the potential buyer. Pad. Q. Which of the following is not a protected class under the 1968 Federal Fair Housing Act? Correct answer, age. Rationale: race, religion, color, sex, national origin, handicap, and family status are all protected classes under the Civil Rights Act of 1968. Age is not a protected class under this act. Q. All of the following people need a license to practice real estate except, correct answer, any trustee selling under a deed of trust. Rationale: as a rule, any negotiating or soliciting for a fee requires a license. Q. A statement made by an agent who honestly believes the inflated statement about the condition of a property it is called. Correct answer, puffing. Rationale: when a buyer believes the agent's puffing to be true, the agent can be held liable for misrepresentation. Q. A salesperson presents a full price offer from a financially qualified black prospect. Later, the salesperson's broker presents a lower offer to the same seller from a white prospect. The seller accepts neither of these contracts but sells to a neighbor, through the same salesperson and broker, who decides to buy the house to prevent the black prospect from purchasing the property next door to him. Which of the following parties would not be subject to liability under the Federal Fair Housing Act of 1968? Correct answer, the white prospect. Rationale: no person is allowed to be a party to a plan of discrimination. The neighbor, the salespersons, and the seller were all part and party to a plan of discrimination and thus are subject to liability under the Federal Fair Housing Act of 1968. The white prospect simply submitted an offer, and is not liable. Q. All of the following documents must be approved by the Real Estate Commissioner prior to use except, correct answer, independent contractor agreement. Rationale: documents we execute with clients must be approved by the Department of Real Estate. Documents between brokers and salespeople do not. Q. During the sale of a property, who would an agent and client negotiate with? Correct answer, customers. Rationale: the broker and the principal negotiate with third parties, also known as customers. Con. Q. An option agreement is, correct answer, a unilateral contract. Rationale: an option is a fully negotiated unilateral contract in which the optioner, offeror irrevocably agrees to hold the offer open for a certain time in return for the option/offeree's performance of payments of the option money. While the optioner is obligated to complete the contract, the option is under no obligation to complete. However, when the option does give the optioner notice of intent to complete the contract, the option becomes bound and the contract becomes a bilateral contract with obligations on both sides. Q. Which listing is also known as a buyer listing? Correct answer: exclusive authorization and right to locate. Rationale: when a buyer agrees to only buy through a buyer's agent, the agreement is an exclusive authorization and right to locate agreement. Q. The type of lease where the tenant pays an agreed upon sums rent and the landlord pays any other expenses is called a/an. Correct answer: gross lease. Rationale: in a gross lease, the tenant pays an agreed upon amount as rent and the landlord pays any other expenses, such as taxes and maintenance.